My cool roommate likes to feed me milk, but every time I drink the milk, I either get a sore in my mouth or on my thighs.
I became suspicious and secretly poured away my aloof roommate's milk. At night, my roommate climbed onto my bed while it was dark and cold. One, shoo, that hurts. I can't remember how many times I woke up with a pain in my mouth as if I had swallowed glass. I was used to it, so I covered my mouth and walked towards the bathroom with a bitter face. Standing in front of the sink, facing the large mirror, I looked inside with my mouth wide open, holding my phone illuminating the flashlight. Sure enough, there was a small area near the throat on the top of the mouth which was much redder than other places. The skin was broken again. What's wrong? Joseph Martinez, who came to wash up, was standing at the door. Seeing my abnormal look, he started to ask, "I think I have a mouth ulcer again." I covered my cheek and spoke pitifully. Joseph sighed and shook his head, looking like he couldn't do anything to me. "Come out after washing up. I'll apply medicine on you." In response to the kind help from this aloof roommate, I nodded gratefully. As I brushed my teeth and breathed in the cool air, I thought to myself, Joseph is so nice to me. As the school's top student, he not only warmed milk for me every 3 days, but also often applied medicine to me when I had mouth ulcers. He is not as aloof as they say. He is obviously cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. When I thought of this, an idea suddenly occurred to me, and I stopped brushing my teeth. Why do I feel like every time I get a mouth ulcer it happens after I drink milk? It was the same last time, and the time before that. Could it be? Does Joseph's milk have any side effects? Are you done yet? Before I had time to think about it, Joseph's urging voice came over. I quickly spit out the foam in my mouth, washed my face, and ran out in a hurry. "Here I come." Seeing me come out, Joseph looked at me with his dark eyes, turned his head, and tapped the stool in front of him with his chin, and gave me an order. "Sit down." I quickly sat on the bench and waited with my mouth open for Joseph to apply medicine to me. Seeing me being so well behaved, Joseph seemed a little happy, and his pale lips curled up slightly. He poured watermelon frost powder on his index finger, bent the knuckles of the index finger of his other hand, and stuffed it into my mouth to prevent me from biting my teeth. Then he lowered his head and stared at the broken skin intently, and inserted his slender fingers into it. "Apply the cool watermelon frost on my wounds." I subconsciously tried to swallow, but cold fingertips held down my tongue. "Don't swallow it," Joseph warned softly. "It will get better sooner this way." I couldn't move, so I blinked to show that I understood. Joseph's fingertips rubbed the wound gently, which made me feel itchy. I trembled a little and drooled uncontrollably from the corners of my mouth. Joseph didn't mind the dirtiness, and he was not in a hurry to withdraw his fingers. He spoke softly. "Wait for the medicine to take effect." I blinked again. By the time it was over, my saliva was already watering. Joseph pulled out his finger, and the saliva on his fingertips stretched out into a long silver thread. Joseph's eyes suddenly darkened. My face turned red, and I quickly took out a tissue to wipe Joseph's hands. "Wipe it clean quickly. No hurry." Joseph took the tissue. "Wipe yours first." Then he carefully wiped the saliva off my chin. Then he stood up and slowly wiped his fingers one by one. "Joseph!" After he finished wiping it, I hesitated and opened my mouth to ask about the doubts in my heart. "What?" Seeing that I was hesitant to speak, Joseph raised his eyebrows. "Fine." I was suddenly deflated and swallowed the words I had prepared. Joseph is so good to me. How can I doubt him? Even if there are side effects, he is definitely not aware of it. I made a case for Joseph. I'll just try it myself next time. I made up my mind secretly. 2. 3 days later, I lay in bed anxiously waiting for Joseph to hand me the milk. Joseph really cares about his roommates. Since I told him that I had severe insomnia, Joseph took on the task of heating the milk. Joseph drinks milk regularly, once every 3 days, and it is said to be very helpful in treating insomnia. This is indeed the case. Every time I sleep very soundly after drinking milk. Insomnia symptoms were also greatly alleviated. But every time I wake up, my back and waist ache, and I used to think it was because I slept too long. Now that I think about it, it's probably a side effect of the milk. I stayed in bed, closed the curtains, and kept looking at the time. It was already 9 o'clock, and Joseph would soon hand me the milk. Sure enough, after a while a dark shadow was reflected on the translucent bed curtain. Joseph's cold voice sounded. "Justin Peterson, it's time to drink milk." Good, because I was about to do something bad. When I heard Joseph's voice, I was startled and hurriedly agreed. "I'm changing my underwear. Just hand it to me." I didn't open the curtain, I just put my hand through the gap. Hearing that I was changing my underwear, Joseph rubbed his fingers and handed the milk to me without objection. I brought the milk in carefully, making sure the curtain was not raised. Then he opened the cup that had been prepared earlier and poured the milk into it along the wall of the cup. To make it more realistic, I left a little milk in the cup and then took a careful sip, making sure there was a lip print of mine on the cup. Then he poked his head out and returned the cup. "Thank you for the milk." Feeling guilty and remorseful, I put on a flattering smile and 2 cute dimples appeared on my cheeks. Joseph's dark eyes suddenly became dangerous, staring at me and taking the milk from me. Then he began to look at the milk cup carefully. I broke out in a cold sweat, wondering if I would be discovered. Unexpectedly, Joseph just drank the rest of the milk along my lip marks. "Don't waste it." I breathed a sigh of relief. 3. Without the effect of milk, my insomnia came back as expected. I can't fall asleep with my eyes closed. It was already late at night, and the other 2 roommates were snoring one after another. I lay flat on the bed. The more I couldn't sleep, the more anxious I became. Later, I just started counting sheep in my mind. Just when he counted the 200 sheep, he heard a rustling sound on Joseph's bed. My already wandering consciousness was also drawn in. "What are you doing when you get up?" "Let's go to the toilet." I asked myself and answered my own questions. Joseph put on his slippers and started walking, but he didn't go to the bathroom as I expected. Instead, he stopped in front of my bed. I opened my eyes suddenly. The moonlight was very bright tonight, and the faint reflection of a figure on the bed curtain made me sure that Joseph was standing in front of my bed. What is Joseph going to do? I'm confused. "Justin." Joseph's cold and clean voice rang out in the dark night, like a bewitching demon. "Joseph, what are you doing?" I was a little curious, but didn't answer. I closed my eyes quietly and pretended to sleep. "Justin." Joseph shouted again, but heard no response, and finally a sick smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He opened the bed curtain and climbed up. 4. The dormitory is equipped with a standard single bed that is 2 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. But my bed is smaller because there is a 1.5-meter giant doll in it. 2 adult men can't lie down on such a small bed. So when Joseph came in, the small space suddenly became crowded. Joseph hugged me tightly, buried his head in my neck, and took a few deep breaths like a cat. Then he spoke pitifully. "I haven't touched Justin for 3 days. I feel so uncomfortable." "Justin." Joseph called me so affectionately that my ears turned red. But what does it mean that I feel uncomfortable without being touched? Could it be that Joseph is the reincarnation of a cat demon who needs to suck people away? I was thinking about random things without any reason. It's a pity that I can't ask, it's so annoying. Joseph rubbed his furry head against my neck for a long time before he seemed to have finally finished sucking. When he raised his head, an unnatural blush appeared on this usually cool and handsome face. But I didn't know that. In the darkness, Joseph suddenly turned on the flashlight on his mobile phone, pinched my cheeks, and forced me to open my mouth. Seeing the still red and swollen wound, Joseph was obviously a little annoyed. "Tisk, why aren't you well yet?" "Justin is too delicate." When I heard Joseph call me delicate, my ears turned even redder. "How can I be delicate? It's obvious that my skin has been broken several times, and it's healing slowly." Joseph actually thought of me like this behind my back. Humph, I'm a little angry. After checking the wound and not getting the answer he wanted, Joseph turned off the flashlight. The dormitory fell into darkness again. "Forget it. Since you smiled so beautifully today, I'll let you go today and use another place." As Joseph spoke, he rubbed my cheek with his tall, slightly cool nose tip, and his warm lips fell on the corner of my mouth. I haven't had time to figure out what the other place is. The other one knew it before me. It was very hot, but I broke out in a cold sweat. My mind suddenly became clear. Joseph turned out to be a gay. 5. What happened was so unexpected. Because I had great self-control and still had some rationality, I suppressed the scream in my throat. The news that Joseph is gay is too hard to accept. Although among the dozens of girls that Joseph was pursuing, there were also a few boys. But I never saw any reaction from Joseph. Instead, he looked disgusted, which made me mistakenly believe that Joseph was a homophobe. How could it be? My mind was in a mess, but I didn't dare push Joseph away or scream to let other roommates know. I don't want to have a falling out with Joseph, and I don't want others to look at Joseph strangely. It makes me sick to think that they might hate Joseph. Joseph was so nice to me that I couldn't bear it even if he had a purpose. There is no way. I can only bear it. It's okay, Justin, I encourage myself. At worst, I won't drink the milk Joseph gives me next time. Joseph is so nice, so let's just think of it as brothers helping each other and doing good deeds. I comforted myself, but I wasn't really sleeping. Joseph seems to be very good at this kind of thing. Several times, I couldn't help but want to scream out loud. I can only grit my teeth and hold on. But touching there would be too much. In the end, I couldn't help but let out a slight groan. Joseph stopped moving. Justin. Joseph narrowed his eyes, and his dark eyes stared at me as I closed my eyes and slept peacefully. I cried for help in my heart. Guanyin Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. No matter which Bodhisattva it is, please save my life quickly. Justin, count out of you here. Looking at me sleeping in front of him, Joseph thought he was hallucinating. But I still have some doubts. The flashlight was turned on again, and I keenly felt that Joseph was about to open my eyelids to check. How can a sleeping person see if his eyelids are opened? I was freaking out because I had no idea. What should I do? What should I do? Joseph's hand came closer and closer. Under tremendous pressure, I chose to escape. I smacked my lips as if I was sleeping very uneasily and turned my body to the side to avoid Joseph's outstretched hand. Joseph's hand stopped in midair, deathly silent. My acting should be okay. This is what people who can't sleep well are like. Joseph probably didn't notice. I frantically sought comfort for myself. After a long silence, Joseph suddenly chuckled. His face came closer to mine again, and he rubbed his nose against my face, then gently licked and bit my ear. Justin was really good today. The two words "so good" flowed out from Joseph's lips in a lingering and affectionate tone. But I didn't feel gentle. Instead, I got goosebumps all over my body. I felt that what Joseph said was very unusual. Wouldn't he have discovered it? No, it can't be discovered. I prayed quietly in my heart. Fortunately, Joseph got up and left after saying this. The work was not finished yet, and the sound of showering could be heard from the bathroom. Whether discovered or not, at least Joseph is gone. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I also knew that I would not be able to sleep tonight. 6. The next day, he saw my ghostly expression through the phone screen. I patted my face with my palms to cheer myself up and tried to put on a bright smile. Going out like this would clearly tell Joseph. Yes, I didn't sleep. I know exactly what you did yesterday. No. I quickly shook my head to get rid of this possibility from my mind. Can't be found. I sat on the bed, took 2 deep breaths, then opened the curtains and walked out. Joseph was sitting at the table. When they saw me come out, a pair of eyes, as calm and bottomless as an ancient well, looked over at me. I put on that ingratiating smile again. Good morning, Joseph. Joseph replied indifferently and stared at me thoughtfully for a while. He stared at me until my whole body was creeping out, and then he finally turned around and continued playing with his phone. Out of Joseph's sight, I ran to the bathroom. I didn't realize before why Joseph's eyes are so scary. No wonder everyone who confessed their love to Joseph and was rejected didn't continue to persist. I splashed my face with cold water. Don't show your fear too obviously. I prepared myself mentally, washed up, and walked out of my safe house, the bathroom, with heavy steps. Are you done washing? When Joseph saw me coming out, he put down his phone with his slender white hands and picked up the small medicine bottle on the table. Apply the medicine. Need not. I was so frightened that the words of rejection came out of my mouth subconsciously. I didn't know what Joseph was thinking before, but now I know. No matter how I think about the details of our previous interactions, something seems wrong. No wonder Kenneth Jenkins always says we are annoying, but I don't care. My sudden yell stunned Joseph for a moment, and his already stern and aloof face turned cold. Then I realized that I had overreacted and quickly tried to make amends. No, no thanks, I'm fine now. Yeah, Joseph asked back with narrowed eyes. Yeah, really. I nodded repeatedly. I'm not going to lie to you. It's healed now. It doesn't hurt anymore. I feel very uncomfortable every time I apply the medicine, so I won't bother with it this time. I found a perfect excuse, half true and half false, but it sounded sincere. In order to make Joseph trust me more, I gritted my teeth and met his inquiring gaze with a calm look. Really? That's good. Joseph scoffed. I hope it's not because of something else. Stay away from me. How is that possible? Joseph's words had an ulterior motive, but I quickly denied it. I saw that there was still suspicion in Joseph's dark eyes. I took 2 steps forward, hugged him, rubbed my head against his chest, and spoke in a somewhat coquettish tone. You have to believe me. You and I have the best relationship in the whole dormitory. There's no way. I just feel guilty and want to give in. Seeing my abnormal behavior, there was a hint of coldness in his eyes, but it quickly returned to normal. He touched my head. That's good. I hope you mean what you say. Joseph's voice softened, and I took advantage of this opportunity to pull him aside and said a lot of nice words to him. I didn't close my tired mouth until Joseph's lips curled up into a faint smile. This matter should be over. I think. 7. Although this incident has passed, I still can't completely reconcile with Joseph. I'm a straight man after all. I really can't stand those overly intimate things. Avoid it if you can. But I couldn't just refuse, so I just ran away. I made up an excuse with my roommate that a good friend was coming to travel with me. I stayed outside for 7 full days. To make it more realistic, I updated my moments at a fixed time and place every day, until my good friend who I asked to join me couldn't take leave for his major class. I returned to the dormitory in disappointment. As soon as I opened the dormitory door, I wanted to run. No one else was in the dormitory. Only Joseph was sitting at the table, playing with his phone alone. The lights were not on, and the room was dark. Joseph's cell phone emitted a faint light, shining on his fair and handsome face. Those 2 lazy pigs in the dormitory wouldn't even move even during an earthquake. How could this be such a coincidence? I even chose to come back at night. I didn't blame Joseph for being alone in the dormitory. Instead, I blamed those 2 guys. Curse them both in your heart for a minute. I turned on the light. Why don't you turn on the light? I asked with a smile on my face. Joseph raised his eyelids and glanced at me lazily, then lowered his eyes and scrolled through his phone. He didn't answer why I didn't turn on the light, but only asked, "Are you back?" Looking at Joseph's expression, my throat tightened a little. There was something wrong with Joseph's condition. He was too calm, so calm that even the coolness that usually surrounded him was gone. But he didn't say anything, and I didn't know how to ask. I always felt that something bad was going to happen, so I put my things down in silence and sat in my seat. You have a good relationship with that friend of yours? I thought the silence would last for a long time tonight. But after sitting down for a while, Joseph started talking. I carefully glanced at his face. Joseph didn't look at me. His white and slender thumb and index finger were zooming in and out on the phone screen. I didn't know what he was looking at. Good. I swallowed and gave a pertinent answer. Oh, it's okay. Why do I feel like you're not okay? Didn't you say you have the best relationship with me? When have we ever gone out together? After hearing my reply, Joseph's calm expression finally could not be maintained. The first time I saw Joseph say so many words with a cold face, I was dumbfounded and opened my mouth not knowing what to say. The atmosphere suddenly became cold. At this critical moment, Kenneth carried his school bag and pushed open the dormitory door. See me sitting. He raised his eyebrows and said in a brisk tone, "Hey, you're back. Did you have fun?" Happy. I quickly took up the conversation, and Kenneth's arrival was like timely rain that broke the deadlock in an instant. Friends walk together for a lifetime. Those days have never existed. A word, a lifetime of love, a glass of wine. The background music started playing automatically in my mind, and I completely forgot that I was greeting Kenneth's parents in my heart a few minutes ago. Seeing Kenneth coming back, Joseph shifted his gaze and did not ask any more questions. But her pale lips were tightly pursed. Joseph, what's wrong with you? Why does your face look so sour? Kenneth was a heartless man, and when he saw Joseph looking sour, he immediately asked him the reason. I was cheated, Joseph replied coldly. Who fooled you? Kenneth was puzzled and turned to ask me with his eyes. Although I knew it clearly, I still shook my head pretending to be ignorant. Kenneth realized that he had failed when no one answered. Shake your head. Alas, since ancient times, heroes have been tempted by beautiful women. I think our school-hunk Joseph has been deceived by a woman.
My whole body turned red from my neck to my toes. The brotherhood that I had just built with Kenneth collapsed in an instant, and I began to greet Kenneth's relatives in my heart again. What a beauty pass! First of all, I am a man, a pure man. Secondly, Joseph definitely doesn't like me, he just likes men, and I have a good relationship with him. He was just jealous just now, the kind of jealousy that only friends can have. To be honest, I am really good at self-hypnosis. The farce is over. When it was almost 9 o'clock, I was thinking that since I hadn't had milk for such a long time, Joseph would probably remind me. I organized the words of refusal in my mind. Unexpectedly, Joseph went straight into his bed. Justin, are you going to bed? I turned off the lights. Kenneth stood in front of the light switch and looked at me. Okay. I quickly agreed. It was not until the whole dormitory fell dark that I realized that there was no milk for today. I curled my lips, suddenly feeling a little aggrieved, and a tear suddenly fell from the corner of my eye. I wiped away my tears in a daze. I asked myself foolishly, what's wrong with me? Must be thirsty, I thought. I'm out of milk, but that's not a serious problem. The serious problem is that Joseph has stopped talking to me. Because I have poor sleep quality, I get up very late. Every day Joseph gets up early, washes up, wakes me up, and waits to go to class with me. But when I woke up today, Joseph was gone. Kenneth stood nearby and called to me. Lazy pig, the sun is about to set on your butt. If you don't get up now, you'll be late. I woke up slowly and looked at my watch. It was already 7:30. As expected, Joseph had left long ago. My heart felt like it was sinking into an ice cellar. Not just classes. After class, we go to the cafeteria to eat together. Joseph doesn't need me anymore. As soon as the get-out of class was over, Joseph picked up his bag and left, leaving me with a cold look on his face. Kenneth, who was a tough guy, finally realized something was wrong. You two had a fight? I nodded bitterly. When someone suddenly asked me about this, all the grievances that had been accumulating in my heart suddenly came to the fore. Tears just fell like raindrops. Hey, don't cry. Kenneth panicked and quickly took out a tissue and handed it to me. I choked and wiped my tears while speaking. What should I do? Joseph seems to hate me now. Kenneth, who was not involved, was really confused and had no idea what the conflict between us had started. Only when there is a cause can the right remedy be prescribed, so Kenneth spoke. Why? I was stunned for a moment. He seemed to think that I had deceived him. Oh, so he was talking about you yesterday. Kenneth suddenly realized, did you lie to him? No. I was afraid of being misunderstood, so I quickly waved my hands. I didn't lie to him. Everything I said was true. Then isn't that enough explanation? Explain. I was stunned. Yes, explain. Joseph has been so good to me, he will definitely forgive me. Today, I was suddenly overwhelmed by Joseph's sudden coldness. I patted my brain, which was a little lacking in IQ. Justin, you are so stupid. Because I figured it out, I ran towards Joseph happily and grabbed the corner of his clothes. What? Joseph turned his head, still with that cold look. The tears that I had just stopped falling started again. I'm sorry, Joseph. You really are my best friend. Can you forgive me for not playing with them? This was the first time Joseph saw me cry. The coldness in his eyes disappeared instantly, replaced by panic. Joseph held me in his arms. Justin, don't cry. Just keep your word. I choked up and nodded, okay. Joseph and I are back together. Because I am happy, I smile with my teeth bared every day. But there are also minor annoyances. The question is whether I should tell Joseph that I know the secret of milk. Whenever I think of this, I will retract my bared teeth and let out a quiet sigh. Kenneth saw me smiling foolishly at one moment and sighing at another. I felt cold all over and finally couldn't help asking, "Are you schizophrenic?" Facing Kenneth's misunderstanding, I shook my head and pretended to be serious. "You don't understand me. I think you're just crazy." Kenneth brushed off the goosebumps he had gotten from being scared, and when he saw me pretending, he laughed and scolded me. "I'm already annoyed, so I won't bother with him. What you think about during the day you will dream about at night." Today, Joseph mentioned milk again. But he didn't hand it to me. Instead, he placed it on the table and looked at me. "Would you like some?" It happened too fast. I have been struggling with this for a long time these days, but I haven't made a decision yet. I spoke hesitantly. "I have no idea." I didn't know whether to tell Joseph or not, but I knew everything he did. "Drink some milk, you know what I mean?" "Wait, I'll drink it for you." Because I just told him that he didn't understand, Kenneth was now extremely annoyed with my nagging manner and drank the milk on the table in one gulp. My pupils constricted and I looked at Joseph. What if Kenneth drinks the milk? But Joseph didn't react at all until the milk was finished. It seemed like he tacitly agreed to Kenneth doing this. "That's my milk," I resisted quietly in my heart, and suddenly regretted my hesitation. Lying in bed at night, I thought anxiously. The milk was drunk by Kenneth. Will Joseph look for Kenneth? I already had insomnia and now I had something on my mind, which made it even harder for me to sleep. I concentrated my attention and listened attentively to what Joseph was saying. It was late at night again, and everyone else had fallen into a deep sleep, when I heard rustling sounds coming from Joseph's bed. I suddenly pulled open the bed curtain and asked in a low voice, "What are you doing?" Joseph stopped moving. He wasn't very surprised that I wasn't asleep yet. He just raised his eyebrows slightly. "Toilet." My face turned red. Okay, be careful." He nodded slightly in agreement, then got up and went to the bathroom. The toilet flushed and Joseph's footsteps were heard again. But when they reached the middle of the dormitory, the footsteps stopped. My heart ached. Would Joseph go find Kenneth? That shouldn't be the case. I'm his good friend. If he wants to do something like that, he should come to me first. Besides, Kenneth is all muscle and I'm all soft. If Joseph spoke to me nicely, I could reluctantly agree to help him. There's no need to give me milk. I thought a lot in a row. I felt anxious because I was unsure of what Joseph would choose. After a long time, Joseph finally moved. He took 2 steps to my bed, opened the curtain and pressed on me. In the dark night, Joseph's eyes were bright and his eyebrows were curved. When Joseph pressed up against me, I couldn't help but grin. But that would have been stupid, so I was secretly happy. He looked at me for a while, his delicate chin resting on my chest, and then he spoke. "What were you thinking about?" I didn't think of anything." It was the first time I saw Joseph in the dark. It was so unfair. The vague outline in the darkness seemed to have an extreme attraction. I licked my dry lips and felt like drinking some milk. "You're lying again." Lin Si tapped my nose with his fingertips. "Are you afraid that I'll go find Kenneth? Don't say one thing and mean another." When I heard Lin Si say that I was lying, I became nervous. I couldn't lie to Joseph or he would be angry. So I suppressed my shyness and said, "Well, I don't want you to look for Kenneth." Joseph smiled, with a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. My heart was floating. Joseph even said that I had a beautiful smile, but his smile was obviously more charming. "You didn't drink your milk last time, right?" My heart, which had just been floating, fell back down. I was afraid that Joseph would criticize me for my mistake, so I quickly explained. "I thought milk had side effects, so I didn't drink it. Every time I drank milk, my mouth would be sore, but you were so good to me." I couldn't continue because Joseph was shaking with laughter. The deep laughter made my chest hurt. "What are you laughing at?" Joseph's mockery was obvious. I felt a little angry and glared at him with my eyes wide open. "Justin is so cute. I like him so much. I like it so much." Fireworks suddenly exploded in my heart. What does it mean to like Joseph so much? Does it mean that he likes Justin the most? Does it mean that his love for others is not as great as his love for Justin? Do I like Joseph's love more than I like Joseph? I don't know how much Joseph likes me, but I'm no longer angry and I'm happy. Joseph had laughed enough and finally straightened his expression. So now that you know, what are you going to do? Hiding from me again, huh? Although I was very happy just now, Joseph always likes to ask questions that are difficult for me to answer. But Joseph said he liked me very much. I hesitated for a long time and finally made up my mind. I won't hide from you anymore. I said firmly. Joseph, you are my best friend, and I like you very much. If you need anything, I can help you. I don't know if it was my illusion, but I always felt that Joseph was stunned when he heard me say that we were best friends, and the smile on his face froze. The relaxed atmosphere just now became weird again. Justin, you are so stupid, you said the wrong thing again. I am crying but I have no tears. But I also said that I like Joseph very much, so why isn't he as happy as I am? Joseph sighed. Really, Justin? You're willing to do so much for me just because we're best friends? In order to make Joseph as happy as I was, I nodded affirmatively, yes. But Joseph didn't seem satisfied with this answer. Justin, listen carefully. I'm going to ask you again. Joseph took a deep breath. If I tell you now that I am actually addicted to sex, and if you agree, I might drag you to do that every day, would you still be able to accept that? When I heard Joseph say that he would force me to do things like that every day, I swallowed in fear, but nodded affirmatively to make Joseph happy. I can accept that. Is it really just because I'm your best friend? Good. Joseph's eyes turned completely cold. Then let's start from today. Is your oral wound healed? I nodded. Then let's get started. This time it was broken even harder than before. I lay in front of the familiar bathroom mirror and peeped in. The inside of his mouth was a mess. Joseph leaned against the door with his arms folded, watching me check the wound with cold eyes. I'm sorry. When I heard Justin say I was your best friend, I couldn't help but use more force. Justin, you won't blame me, right? I covered my cheek and shook my head. No, it will be fine in a few days. Then you really are my good friend. Joseph was acting a little weird again, and I was a little at a loss. But I was too dumb to figure out what was wrong with Joseph. Joseph could only look at him with a puzzled look, snorted coldly, stood up and left. I discovered it after Joseph said he was sick. Joseph is really sick. It seemed like he could have an attack at any time and anywhere, and then pull me to a secluded corner. He seemed to find it very private, but I didn't think so. Every time I'm in the dormitory bathroom, I can't help but scream out loud. I bit my lips until they were broken. The scariest thing is the woods behind the campus. Every time a footstep passed by, I felt like I had been discovered. I'm really afraid that one day, if we're not careful, what we did will become known to everyone. But Joseph seemed fearless. Sometimes I even think he did it on purpose. Because every time I looked at him with an accusing look, he just smiled indifferently. Isn't it normal for us to do something that only best friends can do? This one sentence left me speechless. Although I was worried about being discovered, I was also very happy to do such intimate things with Joseph. I feel like a tangled ball of yarn. So tangled and complicated. I can't figure it out. My head hurts. But I am very lazy, so if I can't think of something, I won't think about it. I sat on the bench in the school, closed my eyes quietly and enjoyed the spring afternoon sunshine. The reason for this half hour of fun was that Joseph went to buy something at the convenience store. Suddenly a shadow fell in front of me, blocking my sun. I opened my eyes. She is a cute round-faced girl with a ponytail. Hello, Justin. What's wrong? Someone suddenly spoke to me. I was a little surprised, but also a little happy. I have been following Joseph every day these days to prevent him from getting sick, and I have almost no social interaction. If I don't talk to other people anymore, I feel like I will degenerate. The girl hesitated for a while and handed over a love letter. I found your contact information and added you, but you didn't agree, so this is the only way. After you read it, if you disagree, remember to burn it all in fire. The girl finished her words and ran away shyly. For me? For me. Love letter. My first time. I looked at the pink love letter and laughed so hard that my teeth popped out. I carefully put it into my school bag, planning to go back and appreciate it. I turned around and saw Joseph standing behind me with 2 bottles of drinks, looking very calm. You accepted it? I actually wanted to accept it, but I felt that Joseph was not in a good state, so I explained, she ran too fast. Joseph took a deep breath, and suddenly he felt that I was really going to drive him crazy. Joseph calmed down for a while and suppressed his anger. Do you think it's appropriate? I didn't think it was inappropriate at first, but seeing Joseph like this, I suddenly feel it's not appropriate. Joseph seemed to see through my thoughts. Justin, let me ask you one last question. What else is there between us besides being best friends? After saying this, Joseph looked at me hopefully. What's the relationship? I was stunned by the question. Will it help you heal your illness? Joseph's hopes were crushed. You're awesome, Justin. Joseph could no longer suppress his anger and his temples were throbbing. He pressed the drink into my hand and said, From now on, I don't need you to treat me anymore. You can take care of yourself. I held the drink in my hand and looked at Joseph's back helplessly. I obviously followed Joseph's instructions on everything. But why did it turn out like this? 11. Joseph really doesn't need my treatment anymore. He found a girlfriend. I go out with my girlfriend every night. It was the same today. After Joseph returned to the dormitory, he didn't even look at me. He packed a few clothes and went out with his bag. I felt so sad when I thought about Joseph doing that kind of intimate thing with his girlfriend. But if you ask me why I don't want to, I can't answer. When I feel sad, I like to pick my fingers. These days, I have added new injuries to old ones, and today I finally picked my fingers until they bled. Kenneth saw that I looked depressed and shook his head. Okay, stop being stingy. Your emotional states are changing faster than the balance in my wallet. Tell me what happened? I shook my head, unable to speak. Stop shaking your head. Aren't you just jealous? When I heard Kenneth say that I was jealous, I jumped up from the bench in shock and hurriedly said a series of denials. No, although I like Joseph very much, but we just have a good relationship, there is nothing else. Okay. Kenneth laughed. You're not jealous, but I am, okay? Are you gay? I asked. I didn't even know that Kenneth was gay and liked Joseph. Yes, I am gay, and you too are not. Kenneth was completely speechless. I didn't need to say anything. After he finished speaking, he went to play games. And I started thinking, am I jealous? Why am I jealous? I am Joseph's good friend, and she is Joseph's girlfriend. Why should I be jealous of Joseph's girlfriend? Do I want to be Joseph's girlfriend? I started fantasizing about being Joseph's girlfriend. After coming out of my fantasy, I touched my cheek and found myself smiling. It suddenly dawned on me that my love for Joseph was the love for my lover. I chased after Joseph in the direction he left. How foolish. Kenneth shook his head as he played the game. This family will have to break up without me. I kept running along the road and finally saw Joseph in front of a convenience store. Under the street light, his shadow was very long. Joseph. When I saw him from a distance, I started shouting. Joseph. I ran towards him, and Joseph also heard my shouting. He stood up and looked at me. Joseph. I finally caught up with him, and I was so exhausted and breathless because I was afraid I couldn't catch up. Don't go with her. Don't get treated with her. My tears fell again helplessly. But Joseph was not so easily fooled this time. He wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. Why, Justin? Joseph asked. Because I like you. I pulled at the corner of his clothes and burst into tears. It's not the kind of liking you as a friend, it's the kind of liking you as a lover. Joseph finally got the answer he wanted. He breathed a sigh of relief, hugged me and comforted me softly. I've already told you that I like you too, Justin. I looked up at him pitifully and asked the question I hadn't asked that night. Do you like me as much as I like you? Joseph was stunned. I'm sorry, Justin. It's my fault. I didn't make it clear. Joseph wiped my tears and looked into my eyes as if making a promise. Joseph likes Justin more than Justin likes Joseph. I love you, Justin. Joseph kissed her. Quote, my cousin finally got it. Rachel Ward, who had just bought popsicles from a distance, watched this romantic scene and spoke with emotion. After taking several photos from different angles, she was finally satisfied and sent a message to her boyfriend. Add chicken legs at night. Okay, thank you, wife. Kenneth, who was far away in the dormitory, bared his teeth happily.